The Colossus Graf Zeppelin was a German aircraft carrier, equipped with over 60 guns, and designed to carry more than 1,700 people and 60 aircraft. It was seen as the ultimate German vessel that might have changed the course of the war. Strangely, while most major powers had aircraft carriers in action during the war, Germany, despite its advanced technology, did not. Hitler and his admirals had envisioned building for carriers by 1947 as part of the Kriegsmarine's naval expansion. But the early outbreak of the war shifted focus to more immediate concerns. Pushing the project aside, Graf Zeppelin, the unfinished 33,000-ton lead ship in a planned class of 2, remained stationed in Poland for nearly 2 years. Only later, when aircraft carriers from other nations proved crucial in major battles, did Hitler command the Kriegsmarine to resume the project. At that point, time was running out. Germany was left vulnerable after the Treaty of Versailles, signed in June 1919, which particularly crippled its military. It was barred from developing new military technology, and its war industry was dismantled. The armed forces were limited to 100,000 men, making them more of a police force than a proper military. This left the country defenseless and politically unstable amid economic collapse. The naval arm of Germany's military, the Kriegsmarine, suffered greatly. It was not allowed to build modern warships or dreadnoughts like those used by the British and French PT. Instead, it could only update old pre-dreadnought battleships, each with a maximum tonnage of 10,000 tons. Despite these limitations, German engineers circumvented the restrictions by developing pocket battleships. Although rearmament had already started before 1933, Hitler was determined to restore the military's former strength, including building a powerful navy. Re-establishing the Kriegsmarine began with the goal of creating a small but capable fleet to compete with the British and French navies. It seemed a stretch, but the German industry continued under the Third Reich's leadership. While the 1922 Washington Naval Treaty had been signed to prevent a naval arms race, only a few signatories truly adhered to it. Its terms were repeatedly revised to suit the interests of the victorious Allies. This led Germany to secure the Anglo-German Naval Agreement, allowing the construction of larger ships. On April 1, 1939, Hitler introduced Admiral Raeder as the new head of the Kriegsmarine during a ceremonial event aboard the battlecruiser Scharnhorst at Jade Bay. During the event, Hitler discussed Plan Z, a strategy aimed at expanding the navy to finally rival British and French sea power. Both he and Raeder envisioned a fleet with 10 battleships, 4 aircraft carriers, 15 pocket battleships, 250 U-boats, and over 100 destroyers and cruisers. While the plan was technically achievable, it could not be completed before 1948. Nonetheless, Hitler was enthusiastic. However, following Germany's invasion of Poland, Britain and France declared war in September 1939. At that time, the Kriegsmarine was nowhere near combat. Germany couldn't possibly defeat the combined Allied navies with its existing forces. So its leaders were forced to think outside the box. Raeder only had the battleships Bismarck and Tirpitz with 15-inch guns, 3 pocket battleships with 11-inch guns, 2 heavy cruisers with 8-inch guns, 2 battle cruisers with 11-inch guns, 34 destroyers, more than 60 U-boats, and not a single aircraft carrier. The pressure was on to complete the Graf Zeppelin, the only carrier under construction since 1935. By the time Germany finally joined the carrier race, it was already late. Most nations had begun converting ships into aircraft carriers before the end of World War I, but Germany's military restrictions had delayed its efforts. After negotiating with rival powers and revealing the naval agreement, Hitler approved the construction of Germany's first aircraft carrier. On November 16, 1935, the ship was assigned to the Deutschwerk shipyard in Kiel and laid down in December 1936 after work on the battleship Nisan was completed. The ship was named after Count Ferdinand von Zeppelin, known for creating the giant airships used during World War I. Graf Zeppelin was launched on December 8, 1938. the anniversary of the Battle of the Falkland Islands, and christened by von Zeppelin's daughter, Helene. The carrier measured 262 meters in length, with a beam of 36 meters and a maximum draft of 8.5 meters. When fully loaded, it displaced 33,550 long tons and was designed to accommodate a crew of 1,760 sailors, plus flight personnel. Its propulsion system featured 4 Brown Bovary geared turbines and 16 Lamont boilers*. The ship's power plant produced over 200,000 shaft horsepower, allowing it to reach a top speed of nearly 62 kilometers per hour. However, by cruising at around 30 kilometers per hour, Graf Zeppelin could achieve a range of almost 15,000 kilometers. In terms of protection, the flight deck was covered with 45 millimeters of Wartenwijk steel armor. The main deck had 60 millimeters, and the waterline armor belt was 100 millimeters thick. Graf Zeppelin was planned to carry a formidable arsenal for its era, including either 8 or 16 15-centimeter SKC-28 guns intended for defense against surface ships. This setup aimed to enable the carrier to be used offensively, attacking cruisers, destroyers, merchant ships, and supporting its aircraft. For anti-aircraft defense, it was to be fitted with 12 10.5-centimeter SKC-33 guns, 22 3.7-centimeter SKC-30 guns, and 28 smaller flak guns. By mid-1939, the carrier was nearly 80% complete, and expectations were that it would be finished by the end of 1940. Training for carrier pilots and development of specially adapted aircraft began in 1938. These responsibilities fell to Hermann Göring, head of the Luftwaffe, but he was reluctant to cooperate since he wanted control over all aviation-related projects. The plan was to equip the ship with 20 Fe-167 biplane torpedo bombers, 10 Bf-109 fighters, and 13 Shu-87 dive bombers adapted for carrier use. Another idea was to create a dedicated carrier aircraft. Unfortunately for the Kriegsmarine, once war broke out in September 1939, resources became scarce, and the project slowed. During the early stages of the Norwegian campaign in April 1940, Admiral Raeder suggested to Hitler the construction on Graf Zeppelin be halted. Although the ship was nearly complete, it would take an additional 10 months to finish installing all of her guns. At the time, the Kriegsmarine urgently needed those guns to bolster coastal defenses in Norway, where multiple ports and future U-boat pens were located. Hitler agreed, and the few weapons already mounted on the carrier were removed. In July 1940, Graf Zeppelin was towed to Gotenhofen and repurposed as a storage depot for timber. It remained in that role until 1942, during which time aircraft carriers were proving themselves to be game-changers in naval warfare. In November 1940, British Swordfish aircraft launched from carriers crippled the Italian fleet at Taranto. In May 1941, British aircraft also dealt heavy damage to the Bismarck and Tirpitz. Most significantly, Japanese carriers played a central role in the surprise attack on Pearl Harbor. In May 1942, Hitler instructed Raeder to resume work on the Graf Zeppelin, but several logistical and political challenges got in the way. Raeder requested newly designed aircraft specifically for carrier use, but Göring claimed that the aircraft industry was already overburdened with supporting the various war fronts. Instead, Göring proposed modifying existing Bf-109s and Ru-87s, which required structural changes to the ship. Work on the carrier resumed with these modifications, and there was hope it might finally be completed. But the situation changed when Hitler replaced Admiral Raeder with submarine commander Karl Dönitz, as the war shifted in favor of the Allies and Germany lost its hold on the seas. Dönitz persuaded Hitler to halt all surface ship construction and divert resources to U-boat production. Work on the Graf Zeppelin was stopped again in January 1943, and the ship was moved to Stettin in Poland. The carrier remained there for 2 years until April 1945, when her crew scuttled the vessel to prevent it from being captured by the advancing Soviets. The Germans assumed she would never sail again, but the Soviets refloated the ship for examination. After salvaging anything of value and using it in a mock air raid test, the Soviets deliberately sank Graf Zeppelin in July 1947. For decades. The exact location of the only aircraft carrier built by Nazi Germany remained a mystery. Even the Soviets didn't know where it had gone down. It wasn't until 2006 that a Polish oil company's ship discovered the wreck. A 265-meter-long vessel, lying 55 kilometers north of the port city of Weber. The Polish Navy dispatched divers to confirm the find and were astonished to realize it was the long-lost Graf Zeppelin, Hitler's first and only aircraft carrier.